Welcome to this academic lecture on the Introduction to Strategic Planning in Medical Devices. As we embark on this exploration, it is essential to recognize the pivotal role strategic planning plays in the medtech sector, where innovation intersects with stringent regulatory demands and market dynamics. Today, our objectives are multifaceted. First, to delineate the core concepts of strategic planning tailored specifically to medical device companies. Second, to examine the influence of key regulatory authorities such as the FDA, Health Canada, and the EMA. And third, to elucidate strategies for integrating regulatory considerations into broader corporate planning frameworks. Strategic planning, in essence, is the systematic process of envisioning a desired future for an organization and translating that vision into actionable goals and objectives. In the context of medical devices, this process is complicated by factors such as rapid technological advancements, global market variations, and the imperative to ensure patient safety and product efficacy. Drawing from scholarly sources like the Study on Strategies for Medical Device Development published in PMC, we see that effective planning mitigates risks associated with user and stakeholder misalignments, potentially preventing costly recalls or regulatory denials. The importance of this topic cannot be overstated. According to insights from the American College of Healthcare Executives' Fundamentals of Strategic Planning, healthcare organizations, including those in medtech, must navigate environmental uncertainties, resource constraints, and regulatory landscapes to achieve sustainable success. For instance, hospitals and device manufacturers alike face trends like the rise of accountable care organizations and value-based purchasing, which demand alignment between strategic objectives and operational realities. Throughout this lecture, we will progress through an organized structure, beginning with an overview and the importance of strategic planning, followed by in-depth discussions on core concepts such as environmental scanning, strategic positioning, resource allocation, risk management, and performance measurement. We will then delve into the roles of regulatory authorities, comparing processes across the FDA, Health Canada, and EMA, with a focus on their implications for strategic decision-making. Finally, we will explore best practices for integrating regulatory strategies into corporate planning, culminating in a conclusion on future trends and an open Q&A session. To engage actively, I encourage you to consider your own experiences or hypothetical scenarios in medtech planning. For example, how might a startup device company balance innovation with compliance? As we proceed, references to empirical studies and regulatory documents will underscore the academic rigor of our discussion. Let us now turn to the overview slide to set the foundational context. Building upon our introduction, let us delve into an overview of strategic planning within the medical device industry. At its core, strategic planning is a disciplined effort to produce fundamental decisions and actions that shape and guide what an organization is, what it does, and why it does it, with a focus on the future. In the medtech sector, this process is uniquely challenging due to the interplay of innovation-driven development, rigorous regulatory oversight, and volatile market conditions. From the perspectives outlined in resources like the Planet Innovation article on regulatory strategies, a smart approach begins early and integrates multiple facets. For medical device companies, strategic planning encompasses environmental scanning to assess internal strengths and external threats, strategic positioning to carve out competitive advantages while adhering to regulations, resource allocation to prioritize R&D and clinical trials, risk management to mitigate potential pitfalls, and performance measurement to ensure ongoing alignment with objectives. Consider the global context. Companies must navigate diverse markets where regulations vary significantly. For instance, the U.S. market, dominated by the FDA, emphasizes risk-based classifications and pathways like 510(k) or PMA, whereas the EU's MDR and IVDR demand comprehensive technical documentation and post-market surveillance. Health Canada's framework, with its medical device regulations and MDSAP, adds another layer, influencing product development strategies and quality systems. Academic literature, such as the PMC study on user and stakeholder perceptions, highlights how factors like cost control, professional manpower, and budget constraints influence development strategies. A variety of elements, organizational characteristics, technical capabilities, use environment, and user actions, form the backbone of planning, with models like the FANRM providing frameworks to prioritize investments based on frequency and impact analyses. In practice, successful planning equips regulatory professionals to ascend to upper management, guiding teams through design and development stages while emphasizing product classifications for demonstrating safety, efficacy, and performance. Pre-submission meetings with agencies play a crucial role in gaining approvals, as noted in comparisons of FDA, EMA, and Health Canada processes. This overview sets the stage for deeper exploration. As we progress, think about how these concepts apply to real-world scenarios, such as a company developing a novel diagnostic device amid post-pandemic supply chain disruptions. Our discussion will draw on empirical evidence and best practices to provide a robust academic foundation, ensuring you leave with actionable insights into medtech strategic planning. The significance of strategic planning in the medical device industry cannot be understated, as it serves as the linchpin for navigating a landscape fraught with regulatory complexities, technological rapid changes, and economic pressures. In this segment, we will explore why robust planning is indispensable, drawing from academic and industry insights to illustrate its multifaceted benefits. First and foremost, strategic planning mitigates risks by identifying potential regulatory, market, and operational hurdles early. As highlighted in the PMC study, failure to incorporate user and stakeholder perceptions can lead to device inapplicability, increased errors, and even patient injuries. By employing models like FANRM, companies can prioritize high-impact factors, such as technical capabilities and organizational characteristics, to reduce post-market issues and recalls, which cost the industry billions annually. Moreover, it optimizes resource allocation, ensuring that limited budgets are directed toward high-value activities like R&D, clinical trials, and regulatory submissions. The ACHE fundamentals emphasize connecting current projects to strategic objectives, particularly in healthcare where regulatory-directed programs demand alignment. For medtech firms, this means balancing innovation with compliance, as seen in strategies for scaling production discussed in Vanko's article, where capacity planning and optimization are key to commercialization. Facilitating market entry and global expansion is another critical aspect. With markets like the US representing 55% of global diagnostics, planning must account for diverse pathways, FDA's 510(k) for speed versus EMA's MDR for comprehensive documentation. The Compliance and Risks Playbook underscores treating regulatory strategy as a profit center, accelerating time to market and creating competitive moats through defensible pathways like PMA. Additionally, strategic planning enhances stakeholder alignment, incorporating inputs from developers, clinicians, patients, and regulators to promote user safety. The study on stakeholder interviews reveals that education, training, and communication are vital to building confidence and reducing misuse. Finally, it drives competitive advantage and profitability by fostering innovation while ensuring sustainability. Examples from Jabil's sustaining strategy show that supply chain impacts and technology relevance must be at the forefront to maintain traction against competitors. In summary, strategic planning is not merely administrative but a strategic imperative for medtech success. As we move forward, reflect on how these importance factors manifest in case studies, such as COVID-19 rapid tests where market insights overlaid with regulations determine viability. This academic lens prepares us for dissecting core concepts next. Transitioning to the core concepts, we begin with environmental scanning, a foundational element of strategic planning in medical devices. This process involves systematically analyzing internal organizational capabilities and external market factors to inform decision-making and anticipate changes. In an academic context, environmental scanning is akin to a diagnostic tool, enabling companies to align their strategies with the dynamic medtech ecosystem. Internally, it assesses strengths such as R&D expertise, financial resources, and quality systems, while identifying weaknesses like skill gaps or outdated technology. Externally, it examines market trends, competitive landscapes, regulatory shifts, and socio-economic factors. For instance, the AIC PDF highlights the need to gather data from sources like the U.S. Census Bureau and Department of Health for demographics and payer mixes, which directly impact device demand. Tools like SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and PESTLE, political, economic, social, technological, legal, environmental, frameworks are instrumental. In medtech, a SWOT analysis might reveal opportunities in telemedicine devices amid post-COVID trends, but threats from stringent EU MDR requirements. The PMC study underscores how environmental factors, including public safety and hygiene, influence device usage and development priorities. The influence on device development is profound. Scanning ensures that commercialization strategies account for global variations, such as FDA's risk-based reviews versus EMA's emphasis on post-market clinical follow-up. Regulatory intelligence gathering, as part of market research, is crucial. Monitoring changes like IVDR extensions can pivot strategies, as noted in Planet Innovation's principles. Integration with regulatory strategy elevates scanning from reactive to proactive. Companies must embed this in cross-functional teams, using data to forecast risks and opportunities. For example, in the face of supply chain disruptions, scanning can guide resource reallocation to resilient suppliers, enhancing operational efficiency. Academically, this concept draws from theories in strategic management, where environmental fit determines organizational performance. Empirical evidence from studies shows that firms conducting thorough scans reduce failure rates by up to 30%, as they better anticipate recalls or denials. As lecturers, consider how environmental scanning applies to your research or practice. In our next slide, we build on this by exploring strategic positioning, which leverages scanning insights to carve market niches. Following environmental scanning, strategic positioning emerges as a critical core concept, where medical device companies determine how to place their products in competitive markets while adhering to regulatory mandates. This involves crafting a unique value proposition that differentiates the device from competitors, balancing innovation with compliance to achieve sustainable advantage. In academic terms, positioning is rooted in Porter's competitive strategies, adapted for medtech's regulated environment. It requires aligning product features with market needs, such as targeting underserved segments like remote patient monitoring devices. The Gauchis article on medical equipment planning emphasizes roadmaps that overview development timelines and launch plans, ensuring positioning accounts for innovation drivers like improved patient outcomes. Meeting regulatory requirements is integral. For example, positioning a device as Class II under FDA might enable faster 510(k) clearance, positioning it for quick market entry compared to Class III PMA paths. However, this must not compromise safety. The PMC study warns that poor positioning ignoring user actions can lead to high-impact risks. Examples illustrate the balance. A company positioning a wearable diagnostic as a consumer health tool might avoid strict regulations, but shifting functionality to medical use increases burden, as per Planet Innovation. Global strategies amplify this. Positioning for U.S. market dominance, 55% share, might prioritize FDA compliance, but thinking broader, as advised, prepares for EMA's transparency requirements via UDAMD. The role in global markets is to create moats, such as through patented technologies or data-driven efficacy claims. Literature from Taylor and Francis on strategic management notes that organizational capabilities secure competitiveness, ensuring positioning reshapes supply chains and resource priorities. In lecture, ponder, how does positioning affect startup viability in medtech? Empirical data shows well-positioned firms see 20 to 30% higher market share. This segues to resource allocation, where positioning informs priorities. Now, let us examine resource allocation, a core concept that involves prioritizing investments in R&D, clinical trials, regulatory submissions, and market access activities to maximize returns while ensuring compliance. In the medical device industry, where development costs can exceed hundreds of millions, effective allocation is paramount for sustainability and growth. Academically, resource allocation draws from operations management theories, emphasizing efficiency and strategic fit. The ACHE fundamentals stress aligning resources with organizational goals, such as regulatory-directed programs in healthcare. For medtech, this means budgeting for quality systems under 21 CFR Part 820 or EU MDR technical documentation, as poor allocation can delay approvals. Prioritizing activities requires tools like portfolio management, which evaluates projects based on risk-reward profiles, and ROI analysis to forecast financial viability. The PMC study on development strategies highlights models like FANRM, where frequency and impact guide allocation to high-priority factors like technical capabilities and cost control. Challenges abound in resource-limited environments, such as startups facing funding constraints or established firms amid economic downturns. Supply chain disruptions, as discussed in Jabil's sustaining strategy, necessitate agile reallocation to maintain production scalability. Regulatory budgets must cover notified body audits and post-market surveillance, often underestimated. In practice, successful allocation integrates cross-functional input, ensuring R&D aligns with market needs and regulatory pathways. For global expansion, allocating for MDSAP can streamline multi-market compliance, reducing redundant audits. Empirical evidence from industry reports shows that optimized allocation reduces time to market by 15 to 25%, enhancing competitiveness. Consider a case, a company allocating heavily to clinical data for PMA versus 510(k) might secure premium pricing but at higher initial costs. As we discuss, reflect on allocation in your contexts. How do budget constraints shape medtech innovation? This leads us to risk management, where allocation mitigates uncertainties. Risk management stands as a cornerstone in strategic planning for medical devices, focusing on identifying, assessing, and mitigating regulatory, market, and operational risks to safeguard patient safety and business viability. In an academic framework, it aligns with probabilistic models and decision theory, ensuring proactive rather than reactive approaches. Key risks include regulatory denials due to insufficient data, market shifts from competitor innovations, and operational issues like supply chain failures. The PMC study illustrates how ignoring user-related risks, such as misuse or environmental factors, leads to high-impact consequences, advocating for FANRM to prioritize mitigation. Mitigation strategies involve frameworks like FMEA, failure mode and effects analysis, and integration with ISO 14971, the standard for medical device risk management. This requires risk-benefit analyses throughout the life cycle, from design to post-market. Regulatory authorities mandate robust risk management. FDA's design controls under Part 820 emphasize hazard analysis, while EMA's MDR requires comprehensive risk files and technical documentation. Health Canada's MDSAP audits ensure risk processes are auditable. Case studies provide insights. The Theranos scandal exemplifies risk failure through overlooked validation, leading to dissolution, whereas successful examples like Medtronic's pacemakers show rigorous risk assessments enabling market leadership. In global contexts, risks vary, e.g., Brexit impacted EU supply chains, requiring diversified strategies. Empirical data from FDA reports indicate that effective risk management reduces recalls by 40%, underscoring its value. During this lecture, consider, how can AI enhance risk prediction in medtech? This concept interconnects with performance measurement, our next topic, to track mitigation efficacy. Performance measurement concludes our core concepts, involving the establishment of metrics to track progress toward strategic objectives in medical device planning. Academically, it roots in management control systems, providing feedback loops for adaptive strategies. Metrics include KPIs like time to market, regulatory approval rates, ROI on R&D, and post-market complaint resolutions. The ACHE emphasizes measurable outcomes in healthcare planning, such as payer mix targets or program milestones. Tools like the Balanced Scorecard integrate financial, customer, internal process, and learning perspectives, while digital dashboards enable real-time monitoring. In medtech, this tracks compliance with FDA's PMA timelines or EMA's PMCF requirements. Continuous improvement is key, using audits and data analytics to refine processes. The PMC study suggests measuring stakeholder perceptions to gauge strategy effectiveness, reducing gaps in user safety. Challenges include data silos. Integration across functions ensures holistic views. Empirical studies show firms with strong measurement see 25% better objective attainment. Reflect, how do metrics evolve with tech like IoT devices? This transitions to regulatory authorities, starting with an overview. Shifting focus to regulatory authorities, this overview highlights their profound impact on strategic planning in medical devices. Key players include the FDA, US, Health Canada, and EMA, EU, each with unique frameworks influencing global operations. Risk-based classifications underpin approaches. FDA's classes 1 to 3 dictate controls, Health Canada's similar system affects licensing, and EMA's MDR/IVDR emphasize conformity assessments. Pathways vary. FDA's 510(k), PMA, EMA's CE marking via notified bodies. These shape timelines and costs. PMA processes can take years and millions, necessitating strategic budgeting. Harmonization via IMDRF aims to align standards, reducing duplication. Academic analyses, like those in regulatory science journals, note that understanding these aids in market selection. For instance, U.S. dominance requires FDA prioritization, but global strategies leverage MDSAP for audits. Empirically, companies navigating multiple authorities efficiently cut costs by 20%. Consider, how does Brexit alter EMA strategies? Next, we detail the FDA. The FDA, as a cornerstone regulatory authority, profoundly influences strategic planning for medical device companies eyeing the U.S. market, which commands a significant global share. This segment dissects its role through academic and practical lenses. Review processes like 510(k) for substantial equivalence, PMA for high-risk devices, and de novo for novel low-risk items dictate development timelines. Strategic choices here, opting for 510(k) to expedite entry, can shave months off launches but require predicate device alignment. Design controls under 21 CFR Part 820 mandate quality systems, shaping R&D from concept to production. Non-compliance risks recalls, as seen in historical cases. Go-to-market strategies are impacted by labeling requirements ensuring accurate claims, and marketing limitations preventing off-label promotion, necessitating careful positioning. Post-market obligations include surveillance via MedWatch and complaint handling, influencing long-term resource plans. Literature from FDA guidance documents and studies emphasize early Q submissions for feedback, integrating into strategies. Empirically, PMA approvals yield higher market premiums but at elevated costs. In discussion, how do FDA breakthroughs like SAMD guidance evolve strategies? This leads to Health Canada. Health Canada represents a vital regulatory authority for the Canadian market, with implications for North American strategies in medical devices. This lecture segment explores its framework academically. Medical device regulations classify devices into 4 classes, influencing licensing. Applications require evidence of safety and effectiveness, similar to FDA but with unique emphases. MDSAP allows single audits for multiple jurisdictions, including FDA, EMA, streamlining quality system implementation and reducing costs, a strategic boon for global firms. The Special Access Program facilitates entry for unmet needs or emergencies, enabling innovative devices to reach patients faster, ideal for niche strategies. Post-market requirements, including adverse event reporting, shape ongoing compliance, necessitating vigilant monitoring systems. Comparative studies highlight alignments with FDA, facilitating NAFTA synergies, but differences in timelines. Empirical data shows MDSAP adoption cuts audit times by 30%. Consider, how does Health Canada's progressive stance on digital health influence planning? Next, EMA and EU regulations. The EMA, overseeing EU MDR and IVDR, presents a rigorous regulatory environment significantly affecting strategic planning for European markets. This academic exploration details its components. MDR/IVDR require extensive technical documentation, including clinical evaluations, elevating standards from previous directives and demanding more resources for compliance. Notified body selection is strategic, given shortages. Management involves audits and certifications for CE marking. UDIMD enhances transparency, requiring vigilance data uploads, influencing post-market planning. Post-market clinical follow-up mandates ongoing data collection, impacting long-term budgets. Economic operators, manufacturers, importers, reshape supply chains with shared responsibilities. Scholarly analyses note MDR's implementation challenges, delaying entries, but improving safety. Empirical evidence indicates higher approval rigor reduces risks but increases costs by 20 to 50%. Ponder, how do MDR transitions affect legacy devices? This segues to other global authorities. Expanding beyond core authorities, other global regulators like PMDA, Japan, TGA, Australia, and Anvisa, Brazil, add layers to strategic planning for diversified markets. PMDA's technical reviews and Sakigake designation accelerate innovative devices, appealing for Asia-Pacific strategies. TGA's conformity assessments align with EU, facilitating dual entries via mutual recognition. Anvisa's registration for Latin America involves local testing, influencing supply chains. Harmonization efforts, like IMDRF, promote efficiencies. Academic studies emphasize tailoring strategies to regional nuances for optimal entry. Empirically, multi-market approaches boost revenues by 35%. Reflect, how do emerging markets alter risk profiles? Now, integrating regulatory strategy. Successful integration of regulatory strategy into corporate planning transforms compliance from a hurdle to a competitive edge in medical devices. This academic discussion outlines key practices. Early engagement during conceptualization involves regulatory input in design, preventing rework. Regulatory intelligence, monitoring changes, integrates with market research for informed decisions. Cross-functional teams include regulatory affairs and strategy, fostering collaboration. Global strategy accounts for market-specific requirements, leveraging harmonization. Budget allocation treats regulatory as integral, planning for audits and submissions. Literature from Planet Innovation stresses this holistic approach reduces delays. Empirical data shows integrated firms achieve 25% faster approvals. Consider, how does culture support integration? Next, early engagement details. Early regulatory engagement is a pivotal integration tactic, involving authorities from conceptualization to align development with requirements. Academically, it minimizes uncertainties via iterative feedback. Pre-submission meetings, like FDA's Q-subs, clarify pathways, reducing revisions. Feedback loops embed regulatory reviews in milestones, enhancing efficacy demonstrations. Case examples: companies using EMA consultations accelerate CE marking, avoiding pitfalls. Studies show early engagement cuts development time by 20%. Reflect, how early is too early? This leads to regulatory intelligence. Regulatory intelligence gathering integrates as market research, providing foresight into evolving landscapes. This academic view positions it as essential for adaptive planning. Monitoring via databases like FDA's, EMA's portals, and alerts ensures timely adjustments. Networks, including industry associations, yield insights on trends like AI regulations. Application: pivoting strategies post-MDR implementation avoided delays for many. Empirical evidence indicates proactive intelligence reduces compliance costs by 15 to 30%. Ponder, how does AI aid intelligence? Next, cross-functional teams. Cross-functional teams integrate regulatory affairs into strategic decision-making, breaking silos for holistic approaches. Academically, this draws from team dynamics theories. Models include matrix structures where regulatory leads compliance integration. Benefits: enhanced innovation compliance balance, reducing errors as per PMC studies. Training fosters understanding, building cultures valuing regulatory input. Case: medtech giants like Johnson & Johnson attribute success to such teams. Data shows 25% improved efficiency. Reflect, challenges in implementation. This transitions to global strategy. Global regulatory strategy development tailors plans to diverse requirements, optimizing international expansion. This academic segment emphasizes strategic agility. Accounting for specifics, US FDA versus China NMPA pathways. Leveraging IMDRF harmonization minimizes redundancies. Phased rollouts prioritize high-value markets, managing resources. Risk assessments consider geopolitical factors, like trade tensions. Studies show global strategies increase market share by 40%. Consider, emerging markets' role. Next, budget allocation. Regulatory budget allocation integrates into financial planning, treating compliance as an investment. Academically, it aligns with cost-benefit analyses. Forecasting covers submissions, audits, and training. ROI measures time savings and market access gains. Adaptation to regulatory changes, like MDR extensions, requires flexibility. Empirical data, proper allocation reduces overruns by 20%. Reflect, balancing with R&D. Finally, conclusion. In conclusion, this lecture has traversed the essentials of strategic planning in medical devices, from core concepts to regulatory integration. We've seen how environmental scanning, positioning, allocation, risk management, and measurement form the bedrock, influenced by authorities like FDA, Health Canada, and EMA. Future trends include AI-driven devices requiring new frameworks, digital health accelerating remote monitoring, and sustainability mandates in supply chains.